Today I'm going to be drawing this fun little whimsical sassy cat, and I think you'll enjoy it as much as I did. If we haven't met yet, I'm Rashonda, and I'm the creator of this YouTube channel, as well as the artbyro.com website. My goal is to make things as easy as possible so even the most beginner artist can follow along and have a nice drawing when you're done. So I hope you'll join me over in the art studio, and we're going to go draw this fun little sassy cat. Let's head on over.
All right, today we're going to be drawing a fun little kind of a sassy cat with a little bit of an attitude. We're going to keep this as simple as possible and break things down into simple shapes. So I had a couple requests for cat drawings. I don't do a ton of animals. I don't know why. It's just never been anything that I was overly interested in drawing. So this will be a fun little change for me. So what I want to do is draw the head. So I'm doing just a sideways oval for the head. And the ears are going to go somewhere in here. And all I'm doing is just real rough sketch of where everything's going to go. The body's going to be here. His legs will come out here with his paws out this way, and then maybe a couple paws down in here somewhere. And then, of course, the tail will be back in here. So real quick, real loose, just blocking everything in with some real basic shapes. And then from here, we're gonna refine everything, put our details in. But this gives us an idea of what the cat is going to look like. And you can decide, do you want the head to be bigger? Do you want the body to be taller, shorter? However you want to do things. And these are just rough guidelines. So if you want to change it up, you can change it up. Here's our line of symmetry. And we're not trying to be perfect. You don't want things to get too perfect. I think I want the nose to be maybe down here a little bit. So let's do our little rectangle nose. And then the mouth, we're just going to put a couple just little curved lines down here for the mouth. And then the eyes, because he's going to be a little sassy cat, I think we want to angle them down a little bit. And we're still just doing kind of a loose idea of how things are going to be. And then what we do is our details, we just get them tighter and tighter as we go. So we'll just put them in loose. Just some rough idea of where everything's going to go. Then we'll start adding in a little more detail. So I want him to look a little bit angry, I guess. We want him to look like he's got an attitude. Now, of course, you don't have to draw yours with an attitude if you don't want. You can make it a little cuter, a little more on the cuddly side. But I'm going to make myself a little sassy cat here. Just because I thought that might be fun. Okay, so now we can start drawing in a more detailed shape of the head. So I'm going to have his little fur come out this way a little bit. And then come down like that. Come out here a little bit. Maybe have some little wispy hairs coming down there. Now, if you want, you can clean up some of your pencil lines as you go. Or you can just save that until closer to the end and clean it up when you get your outlining done. If having all the extra lines, if that seems chaotic, I guess, for kind of a lack of a better word to use, if you're having some anxiety over these extra lines and things being kind of sketchy and messy, then clean them up as you go. If they don't bother you, then you can just leave them until it's time to do the outline and get ready for color. Now, typically when I do my drawings, I don't clean anything up as I go. When I make the videos, a lot of times I'll clean it up some because I want to make sure you can follow what I'm doing and it doesn't get too confusing. And we could add some little hairs up here. Clean this up some, but you'll be able to see all the details and what everything looks like when we get ready to add some color to it. And I'll most likely use markers for my drawing. I typically use markers. That's kind of been my go-to. One thing I hadn't really thought about until somebody commented on one of my videos. They commented that they love using markers because they have some issues with their hands. I don't remember exactly what she said, arthritis maybe or something along those lines. And she finds that the markers are gentler on her hands and she doesn't have as many issues when she uses markers compared to like colored pencils or something like that. And I had never really thought about it before, but she's absolutely right. I really have been enjoying markers for several years. I used to use colored pencils all the time, and I never really thought about it, but I have some issues with my drawing hand, and she is not wrong. The markers are definitely easier on the hands than colored pencils are. And I don't know if that's part of the reason why I prefer markers. I like how they look. I like how the colors are nice and bold. So I'm just gonna keep working on the details. Get the paws in here. Just draw a little bit of the body down there. And then this is going to come down here. And then the leg will come down, come around like that. We'll have another paw down here. I'll clean this up a little bit just so you can see what I got going on here. I don't think I want that to come down too far. And then, of course, this leg over here. Bring that around. Now I make my lines kind of sketchy as I'm drawing. You can make your lines that way, or if you feel more comfortable just doing just one smooth pass with it, whatever you find easiest. I don't care too much if my lines are kind of sketchy, because when I do my outline, I'll make them a lot smoother. So I'm not too worried about that. So now, I wish I had a little bit more room for the tail, but I don't, so that's okay. We'll just try to squeeze it in here a little bit. I think the tail is the hardest part, trying to get it so it's fairly even. It's gonna just have a little curl at the end, like he's kind of whipping his tail around a little bit. Well, maybe we'll just put some kind of indication of some ground or something that he's sitting on. Now, when you outline your drawing, you can add in, so obviously, we want to have some whiskers in here. And again, they don't have to be perfect. You can make big whiskers, you can make little whiskers. When I do the whiskers with my outlining pen, I'm not going to try to follow those. I'm just putting them in there, and then I'll do it with the pen, and all this pencil will just get erased. We'll use one of these big erasers and just go over the whole thing. You can add some little furs with your pen when you're doing your outline. If you're going to outline in pen, you can add some more little hairs if you want to do that. But that's it for the drawing part of it. I think it looks pretty good. Now, if you wanted to, you could make these paws closer together so you don't see the body. I always feel like the body in between here looks kind of awkward. A way to fix that would be to just angle the paws so they're closer together. So let's go ahead and do our outline. I'm going to use my Ohuhu outlining pens. These are the ones I've been using most of the time lately. I really like them. I'm loving the Ohuhu products. I started using their markers recently, and I've been using the pens quite a bit. And they are nice products. The price is reasonable. I like that the pen set comes with a full range of sizes all in one pack. So you just grab what you need, and you don't have to hunt around for different packs of pens. And if you're using a pen and it's not quite the right size, you just switch and grab a different one, which is really nice. Which thinking what I'm going to do, this one's the 0.5. So I think I'm going to do the outside lines with this one, and then do the inside details with a smaller one, because this is seeming a little bit big to me for this drawing. So I'm literally just going to trace right over top of my pencil lines with my outlining pen. And at this point, my lines are not going to be sketchy anymore. I want to have nice smooth lines, no more sketchy. And then, like I said, we'll just go right over top of everything with that eraser and clean it all up. And we won't see any of those pencil lines anymore. And then the only thing left to do will be to add color. And I'm going to use markers for my color, but you could do anything. Whatever medium you prefer would work. I'm doing mine on an artist trading card. I love working on artist trading cards. I like having my drawings in a little portfolio. And then sometimes I'll go through and I'll trade some of my cards off. And other ones I'll keep for a little bit. I usually keep all of them for a little bit. And then at some point I get too many and I'll jump into an artist trading card group and I will trade some of them. So now I want to switch to, this one's a 0.2. So that last one was a 0.5. This is a 0.2. And I'm going to add some of these smaller details in here. We'll do the eyes with the smaller one. And then I want this little bit, this little patch of fur here. And then I think maybe I'll do the whiskers with the smaller one too. And then we will take this eraser, clean everything up. So one thing I talk about a lot in my videos is to try to not get too hung up on things trying to be perfect, because it really just takes the fun out of drawing. And drawing definitely is supposed to be fun. It's kind of the point of doing it. It should be fun and relaxing and enjoyable. So try to embrace your mistakes. So like this line right here, the face, I came down a little bit too straight. I would have liked it more curved like this side is, but that's all right. It's fine. We want our drawings to be perfectly imperfect. Because if you try to get things perfect all the time, you're just going to get discouraged and probably end up giving up. Okay, so now we need to decide what color we're going to make them. And we could do a realistic color, we could do a brown or a black, or we could do something a little less realistic. We could do some purples or blues. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was coming in here and putting some little bits of kind of wispy hairs coming off of him. Make them look a little bit rougher, maybe a little frazzled. Have his hair kind of sticking out a little bit. And that's up to you if you want to add some little extra hairs. And how much you want to add, how little, how big do you want them to be? Do you want them to be all over your little kitty cat? Do you want them just in certain spots? So this is why I like doing my drawings on artist trading cards, because you can experiment and try some different things. And if you don't love it, you do another one and do something different. I like to do a whole series of drawings, like a little weekly, little 7-day challenge of where I'll stick to one theme So the theme might be these cats with attitudes, or maybe just cats in general. And then what I would do is a series of them throughout the week. Try to do one a day, and each day change it up, do something a little bit different. So for this one, I'm drawing some little extra wispy hairs coming off of them. And if I decide I don't like them, I could do another one. Try something a little different, leave that off. I could try drawing them a different way. Because as I'm looking at them, I'm thinking, maybe I don't like them this short. Maybe they'd look better if they were longer. You try different things, experiment, and that's how you learn and grow as an artist. All right, so let's pick out some colors. And I think I want some up here. I'll pick out some colors for this guy. I might just go with like some blacks and grays, maybe. I've done a couple cats before that I made purple, and those are actually kind of cute. I enjoyed experimenting with the color a little bit. I think for this guy, we'll just do like some grays and blacks for him. So I'm going to grab some marker colors, and I'll be right back with you. All right, I have some colors picked out. What I have are a couple of gray markers and a black. And then I have this pink color and a brown for like the ears and the nose. So what I typically will do is I'll take one color and fill in an area, and then I'll take my other color and I will add that, and then I'll take the first color and kind of blend it in a little bit, and that'll add a little extra depth to the drawing by putting in, instead of just flat colors, we'll layer them a little bit, and that will make them look a little bit more interesting. It's an easy way to advance your coloring of your drawing and make it look a little bit better. And then I think maybe I'll just use this for the eyes. Maybe could have put a little bit of yellow in there for the eyes. Use that one, and I will grab this little bit darker brown. Make them a little bit darker up at the top. Then take my lighter brown and go back over right there and smooth that out a little bit. And then for the body, for the fur, what I want to do is I'm going to use the brush side. I really like these Ohuhu markers. They're nice. I like the brush tip. So what I'll do, what I'm thinking is we'll layer the gray and then add a little bit of black. And I think I'm going to leave some areas white as well, like little patches of white fur that you see a lot on black cats, like maybe around the paws. the face. I'm going to do the same thing with the grays. I'm going to put the lighter color down. And then the darker color. And then we'll come in with the black. And then we'll blend that in using the gray. I like to avoid having my drawings just solid black. You could try that if you want to experiment and try it out. But I like to keep some of it gray with some areas of the black in there. And I'll typically just work in one little section at a time so I can make sure my markers stay wet so I can work with them and blend them. And you just kind of got to decide a little bit on how much you're going to have black and how much you might want to have the gray. So like this part of his body is going to be pretty dark because it'll be all in shadow. So I'm going to keep working on this, and I'm going to time lapse it so I'm not boring you too much. I do feel like I want to thicken up his eyes right here though. I want that a little bit thicker right there. And I don't know how well you can see this, but I kind of sketched in where the face is going to be white to give me a little bit of some guide to follow there. So I'm not just trying to do it with marker. And as I was talking earlier, you could do a whole series of drawings and try some different things. So you could change up how you do the colors. That would be another thing that you could try. Experiment with your colors. And that's why I really love working on the artist trading cards, because I like to do multiple drawings of a subject. And I just updated one of my ebooks where I share how I do my drawings and give you lots of ideas for ways you can change your drawings. And there's also a freebie if you want to see what that process is all about, and I'll put that in the description. It's the 7 days to better art. And it's a really, really good exercise for pushing your creativity, coming up with your own unique ideas. And what I encourage you to do in these guides is to start out with a drawing from a tutorial, you know, something similar like this, whether it's mine or somebody else's, doesn't matter. And then from there, you make some small changes with each drawing. And when you're done with your series, you're going to have all sorts of different things that you would not have ever done had you not did the drawing challenge. Because you're going to keep trying new things. And part of that is when I do mine, and what I encourage people to do is use the artist trading cards because they're smaller. And you can do an entire drawing start to finish in probably about a half hour, depending on what you're drawing, sometimes a little bit longer, sometimes shorter. And if you're not talking and explaining things and you're just working on your artwork, you should be able to do them fairly easily in 20 to 30 minutes. But it's a great way to work on developing your style, and it's a great way to learn how to use different medium. So if you've been wanting to try markers and you feel like you're not very good at it, then maybe you could try doing a 7-day series and use marker the whole time and challenge yourself to do your 7 drawings with markers. And if you did 7 drawings and you're trying to get used to a new medium such as markers or whatever it might be, you're going to see that with each drawing they're going to get better and better. So it's a great way to practice. It's a great way to experiment with some different things. So for instance, like I mentioned earlier, I don't draw a lot of animals. Therefore, I don't color a lot of animals. So with this drawing, I'm playing around a little bit with my brush strokes to see if I can mimic fur by doing little short brush strokes. But you don't know unless you do it. And you don't develop those skills and those techniques to get your supplies to do what you're trying to get them to do unless you practice that. So I'm just going to keep working on this the same way I'm doing this now. And black's a little bit tricky because, like I said, you really don't want to just fill in the whole thing with just solid black. That never looks good. So you have to get some grays in there. You could put some other colors. You could put blues or orange or, whatever might be reflecting off of the fur. I'm going to switch back to this one. So one of the things with the markers is you can just keep working back and forth, gradually building up your color. And I make my own artist trading cards. And these ones I made from a marker pad. I just took the pages out and cut them down smaller. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and speed this up, and I'll be back with you when I have the color finished so we can add the finishing touches. Right. I have everything colored in. I added some browns at the bottom for the ground, just fill that in a little bit. And then I used a really light gray to add some little shadows on the white. You can leave them white. I usually don't like just leaving them white, so oftentimes any white areas I'll put a little bit of gray in there just to balance it out a little bit. And then the last thing, or one of the last things, is to do something with the background. And I'm really bad at working on my backgrounds. They're usually just kind of an afterthought. So what I do, is kind of my lazy way of doing a little something for the background, is that I will just add, I call it a halo of color around the outside. It just brightens it up a little bit. I do need to get better at planning out backgrounds and doing something different. So the background can definitely can take your art to the next level. And you don't necessarily have to do like a whole big scene or anything in the background, which of course you can. And those drawings are really cool. But there's a lot of different things you can do for the backgrounds, and I should probably put a little more effort into upping my background game, I guess you could say. But for this drawing, I'm just gonna use this little hack and add some color. And then you can also do a border around the outside edge. I do that quite a bit too, where I'll just go along each edge. And I usually just leave the corners white. I don't worry too much about trying to fill in the corners there, because I use a corner punch and I like to round my corners off. So now the last thing I do is I will add a little bit of white with a Jelly Roll pen, typically is what I'll use. And I'll just do it kind of random. And what I like to do is break up these big areas of color with a little bit of white to add some contrast. And then I try to stick with mostly how I did the shadows, but not too much. So down here, I want to add a little bit of white so you can see the difference between where the legs are. It'll kind of help bring that out a little bit and make sense of the drawing. But mostly, I'm just randomly putting them in here to break up these areas of color. I'm not trying to focus a lot on where my light source is coming from and all that kind of stuff. So make that a little bit bigger. But that's pretty much it. And the only thing I'm seeing I might add is on the tail. I have these little wispy hairs everywhere else, but I didn't do any on the tail. And I'm thinking it makes the tail seem like it doesn't quite belong. So I'm going to add a few. And even with the drawing finished, I don't know how I feel about the little wispy hairs. I mean, I think it goes good with the cat's attitude. I think it makes him look a little frazzled, I guess. It's got all these crazy hairs sticking out. So I think we're going to call this one done. And I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial on this little sassy cat. It's a little whimsical. He's definitely got an attitude going on, but I hope you enjoyed the video, and I really hope you feel inspired to create some of your own artwork. And I will see you next time. Happy creating!
That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I really hope you feel inspired to create some of your own artwork. If you did enjoy the video, please hit that like button. It really helps me out, and it helps others find the video. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to get notified of future videos. And take a look in the description box. There's that freebie in there that I talked about in the video on how to make better art in just 7 days. So grab that before you take off, and I will see you next time. Bye.